Man, Roundup family, greetings. Greetings, my real estate Roundup family, greetings. I'm going to wait for you guys to get logged on here as I send out a million notifications for my social media. Social media is just crazy. I have to learn this stuff. Do you study any of this stuff, Kevin?
We are trying, man. We're actually trying to get folks in the church to help, man, and it's been crazy, man.
It
Yeah.
changes.
In this day and time, you gotta be able to communicate social media, man.
If you ain't on that, you don't even exist. I call it, well, my mentor calls it your digital footprint. I'm like, when you type your name in, what comes up? What you got on there?
Right. Oh, that's important, man. And not just the social media, but what are others saying about you?
That's right.
Some of it could be true, some of it could be false, man. You gotta be careful about all that stuff, man.
I found out, man, it's like, even if somebody says something, they can go through your footprint and be like, nah, I don't know about that. They can go through, see if you're a family man, whatever it could be.
Right.
My mentor says, go ahead.
If somebody know what they're doing, man, they can put you on blast easy, man, and your reputation can be killed. It don't take long.
He said, Chris, you know what? If you don't tell the world who you are, somebody else on the internet is going to tell the world who you are.
You got that right.
You need to get on it. Get on it. Roundup family, greetings, class. Greetings. This is Chris Haskins with therealestateroundup.com. My mission and ministry is to raise your financial literacy through real estate investing and entrepreneurship. In doing that, I get to bring to you the people that have had a direct impact on my life, which brings us here today with Monday Masters and my friend and Pastor Kevin Swann. How you doing, my brother?
Chris, man, it's great, man. I'm doing good. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Brother Swann, for the people that don't know who you are, give us a little background, where you're from and what you do.
Well, as you said, I am a pastor. I happen to be your pastor. So that's a good thing. Yeah. Born and raised in Hampton, Virginia. Went off to school and had an athletic scholarship, played basketball, and finished up at Old Dominion in Norfolk, Virginia, with a bachelor's and a master's in counseling. And round about my senior year of college, man, I got a call from the Lord to go into ministry. So it's crazy, man. My wife and I, we met at ODU, and we graduated in 95. We got married in 97 in May.
Wow. And
in June of 97, the very next month, I did my initial sermon, man, and been pastoring now for 13 years.
Unbelievable. Nice. For my Roundup family, if you don't know, a few weeks ago, you saw your boy finally figured out how to get a boy on the way. I didn't know that this is the man that got that prayer through for me. You got that prayer through for me. I appreciate it.
The prayers of the righteous, man. You had to get that boy this time, man. Look, you had a lot of pressure on you, man.
Good Lord have mercy.
I'm happy for you, man.
Thank you, brother. Thank you.
Hope your wife's doing well too, man. Hope everybody's fine, man.
Yeah, we good. Roundup family, typically I've got so much business information for you, but the biggest real estate rounduppers that I need you to focus on, and even for me, is between your two ears right here. And this gentleman here has been a big impact on me regarding speaking, regarding words, putting that together, regarding being a leader. And I figured he'd be able to drop some knowledge on. He has these five steps, 5 ways to focus on you being a better leader. Because if you can't lead, you can't run a business. Brother Swann, you got 5 things for us today. Let's get rocking and rolling, my friend.
Yeah, but let me say before I get into the 5 that you don't have to have a title to be a leader. And I think that's before I get into my 5, I want people to really understand that if you are a parent by virtue, then you are a leader. If you have certain positions where you have influence over others, then that makes you a leader. And I think sometimes people get caught up in whether you're a president or you're a supervisor, or in my case, a pastor.
Title.
But no, it's not about title. leadership at the base of it all is influence. And I want to start there. So if you have an ability to influence people and help people, then really you have leadership ability and potential. So having said that, my 5 are not necessarily linked to pastoring or church. I just think that these are 5 things from a personal perspective. And I know there are lots of leadership books, a lot of things and places you can read, but these are the ones that have helped me throughout my years of ministry, not just pastoring a church, but leadership period, even outside of the church, even my role as a husband and a father. These 5 have helped me. So the first one, Chris, I want to say is that in order to be a good leader, you have to know who you are, right? And so these 5, by the way, all are going to be knows, K-N-O-Ws. There's certain things that you have to know about you. And because so many times we find ourselves focusing on other people or other things or what is somebody else doing. But in order to be a real good leader, you got to know yourself in a lot of different ways. So the first one is to know who you are. And I say that first because you have to understand how you tick, and you have to understand how you're wired. And you're not wired the same as somebody else. And so therefore, their leadership style may or may not work for you. So the first and most important thing is, how are you built? How do you think? Are you more introverted? Are you more extroverted? Are you more personable with people? Do you like working with things? Do you like working in groups? Do you prefer working alone? Are you a visionary? Or are you one that likes to take details and execute the plan? So all of that influences your ability to lead. And if you don't know who you are, and then you look up and see what somebody else is doing, but they don't have the same personality as you, they don't have the same background as you, it's going to be very difficult for you to be able to pattern your style after somebody else's. So the first one is you got to know who you are.
I went to see Eric Thomas a few weeks ago, man, brother. He had us do something called a disc analysis, and it just broke down your different personalities. And some people are high in some and low in others. And I had no idea that there was different type of personalities were out there. And then you can focus on your strengths. Well, I was able to focus on my strengths after I took that test.
Yeah, and most people don't, man. Like, for example, even when it comes to learning, man, you got to know how you like to learn. Some people like visual learners, right? They have to see it, right? So that's why in church we have PowerPoint slides and stuff. So because we know the imagery is what connects people. Then other people are auditory. So that's why a sermon is more important, because you can speak, they can listen, they can receive. But then there are other people who are kinesthetic learners. They got to touch it, right? They have to manipulate it. And so all of that factors into who you are, right? So if you are one who likes to visually lead, you also have to be mindful of those who like to hear things and receive.
Wow.
And all of that is so true, man. And it's only, like you said, Chris, sometimes when we take tests and when we really realize and come to the conclusion of how we're built.
Who I am. Yeah. Nice. Okay. That's number 1.
So that's number 1, is know who you are. All right. Number 2 is also important, man. It is to know your why. And oftentimes when I'm doing leadership with people, both leaders in our church, prospective leaders, and leaders in the community, because I do get asked a lot to speak to leadership in the community, one of the first questions that I really ask them is, why are you doing this? And you have to know your why, because there will be times where whatever you are setting out to do is going to be challenging. It's going to be difficult. You might have to work with difficult people and situations. Certainly dealing with real estate, man, is not always an easy venture. And sometimes when you find yourself discouraged and disappointed in what you're going through, what keeps you going is to remember why you started this in the first place. So, why are you in real estate, Chris? Why are you doing this for the masses and reaching so many people? Because you could be doing something else, right? But you know what I'm saying? I mean, there's a lot of other things that we could do with our time. But when we choose to do something, we have to remember why we do it, right? Simon Sinek, who's the author of the book, Start With Why, is really a good book that I recommend, because the why is linked to your purpose. And if you don't know your purpose, if you don't know the true meaning of what you're doing, then it's not going to last. And so even in situations like relationships, marriage, family, why are you in it? Why are you doing it? And I think sometimes we jump into things before we even consider that question, but you really need to start with that question first, so that you can have clarity in knowing what it is that you really want to do. And then you can communicate that to other people. So for me, my why of why I'm pastoring is because I desire to see families, communities, individuals really understand their higher purpose and call. That life is more than just going to work and cutting a check, man, and paying bills.
Oh, man.
But it has to be something beyond that.
So much more.
So that's my why.
Wow. So much more. I even think as of today, I think my life is so just insignificant regarding the footprint. And when I think about my great grandfathers and the beyonds, what they had to do just to, Brother Swann, is like, I mean, how do we get a why now when we have everything at our fingertips? It's like we don't even have to leave our houses almost to get everything we need. I mean, my life didn't really blow up per se until I attached myself to the bigger calling, which was, I'm just tired of seeing broke people. I don't even know more broke people.
Yeah, but see, here's the thing, Chris. What you realize was the why can't be selfish. Because when we think that our why is simply to go and buy and shop and get more of our own stuff, that's not really significant living. What you realized was you saw a need and you had a burden and a passion for people who were hurting, who didn't know, who didn't have information. And kind of like the movie Harriet that just came out, right? It's one thing for you to be free, but you decide, I want to go back and I want to help others to see what I see, to feel what I feel, to experience what I experience. That's your why. And what we realize is in life, when your why is bigger than you, that's when you really have true fulfillment. But so many people are only chasing their own stuff, man.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. It took time for me though, Brother Swann. What can you recommend for people that say, well, I mean, I don't have a why. I mean, I do it. I've got to do it out of the obligation for my family. Or is there certain things that we can say? I guess for me, it was like I kept seeing a pattern over and over everywhere I went. I'm like, I see this type of person, and I'm like, man, I need to figure out, because I was that person. I'm like the person I didn't know nothing about real estate. Now I got enough real estate for generations, So I'm like, how do my viewers from my roundupers that don't necessarily have a big why, Brother Swann, what can they do to kind of focus on getting a why?
So the why comes in many different forms and oftentimes through life experiences. Like you said, one day you just happen to recognize what was around you. Now, I would argue it was around you the whole time. You just didn't know it, right? You just didn't see it, right? But something happened where the light bulb came on and you had an aha moment, and now your why became crystallized. For other people, there are certain life experiences that prompt them to have a why. And unfortunately, for example, somebody that, let's say, is diagnosed with cancer, somebody has a health challenge,
life changer,
a major life turn, then that becomes their why. Now I want to be an advocate for something else. And sometimes, unfortunately, that happens through tragedy, man. Somebody dies, or there's an issue that you're going through, and now you want to be a beacon of light to speak on that issue for somebody else. That becomes your why. So it really isn't one way that people come to their conclusions, man. It's oftentimes life experiences, man, that help to shape how we get to things. And then you also got to think about what you're passionate about. And too many times we bury our passions because, like you said, we just so consumed about surviving. I got to pay bills. I got to work. I got mouths to feed. I got a household to take care of. It's hard for me to think of anything else other than that, right? But your passion is also part of your why.
Yeah, but I meet people, from here from Florida to Cali. They want to know how in the heck, Chris, do you have so much passion about this real, And I'm like, dude, for me, bro, Swan, it has nothing to do with me. I'm like, it's all about the other person. Like, I mean, I know I can buy enough houses. I mean, I know how to do it, but it's like, I think the information is out there. Has to be. I mean, the information is there, but I think that the vessel that it comes from, like somebody, you can hear a dude, somebody that looks different from me in a suit and a tie with a briefcase say the same thing that I say, and some people won't even get it. They won't even understand it.
So the difference for you is it's really not about selling houses, man.
Mm-mm.
That's not your why. That's the vehicle that you're using to fuel your why.
Mm-hmm.
Your real why is to empower people. Your real why is to give people opportunities and knowledge and information to be able to make more informed decisions so that hopefully they can empower their own families. We can have stronger communities. That's really your passion. And oftentimes what happens, man, if you got people that's listening here and their only passion is just to flip houses or to make money, that is a why, but that why may not be sustainable.
I don't think it is.
Your why is sustainable because it's bigger than the house,
mm-hmm.
right? So in the same way for me, it's not just that I am a pastor of a church. That's what I do.
Mm-hmm.
But who I am, I'm passionate about helping families in the same way you are helping families with information and sharing, but I'm doing it in a different way. Yes. So my hook is religion. Your hook is houses, but we end up doing something very similar.
Nice.
And helping people.
Cool. I got so many questions for you here. Round up, if you're just joining us, I got Brother Kevin Swann, pastor of Ivy Baptist, here hanging out with me today. We're going over his 5 leadership skills to develop for 2020. Get your questions answered by the expert, the man. Get your questions in. We're going to go over a few more, and then we're going to do some quick Q&A at the very end. All right, Brother Swann, what next you got for me?
All right, so number 1 again is know who you are, and that takes time, by the way.
Yeah, took me 40 years.
That you rush.
Took me 40
you know what's
years.
funny, man? So much of our time, let me just go back to that. So much of our time that we spend is trying to please people.
Oh, man.
So how can you know who you are if you're trying to be what everybody else wants you to be? You have to be who God's called you to be, who you are, and embrace who you are. So that's number 1. Number 2, which is also important, is to know your why. Why are you doing what you're doing? What's the real reason? And there you will discover your passion and your interest. Number 3, Chris, and this was one that took me some time to figure out. Not only do you need to know who you are, but you also need to know what you're not good at. Okay? You have to know not just your strengths, but you need to know your weaknesses. And here's the key as a leader. Once you begin to know what you're not good at, you then have to find and surround yourself with people who are good at what you're not good at.
Mm.
So for me, it took me a minute, but I finally discovered that administration is not my thing. I'm not good at. I can do it, and I can sit down and organize and plan it out. But my real strength is visionary, right? I see it, right? And so after I see it, organizing it and detailing it became a labor for me. It was a struggle. I didn't really enjoy that part of it. And I realized I wasn't good at it.
Mm-hmm.
So in staffing our church staff, the number 1 thing that I look for now are people who have administrative gifts and strengths. Mm-hmm. So that now for me, all I have to do is take what I'm good at, which is the vision casting, because I can see it clearly. Mm-hmm. And now I need people to be able to take what I see and execute and walk it out. Mm. And so you have to be willing to surround yourself with people who are different than you, because so many times we like to put ourselves around people who are like-minded.
Yeah, we do.
So if everybody thinks like you, who's going to catch the blind spot?
That's a bad mix.
Right? And just think about it like this. I asked members the question. I'll ask you, because I asked the membership this question. If everybody in the church acted just like you, what kind of church would we have? right? So I'll ask you in the real estate, if everybody in your company acted just like you,
Oh man,
what kind of company would you have?
we'd be in trouble. In trouble.
But I'm gonna tell you this, Chris. It took me a while. I had to be humbled in this area, man, because sometimes, man, as leaders, we think we can do it all, and we're supposed to do it all, and we're supposed to know it all. And I've come to the conclusion that that's hindering your business.
Mm.
The best thing you can do is do what you know you're good at, and find other people who can do what you're not good at, and trust and empower the other people to do their jobs, so that now you have balance in your organization, man.
Nice.
And so for me, I empower our staff to make decisions, and they don't always have to come back to me for every little detail or permission, because I've empowered them, because I trust them to do and carry on the mission even when I'm gone, man.
Now, what do you mean by empowering people, brother?
Well, one of the things about leadership, man, is that leadership is a measure of power, right? Let's just be honest. You are the decision maker in most organizations. But what I have discovered is sometimes it's best to share some of your power with other people. And that's what I mean about empowering. That no longer does every little decision of the church have to come to me. I don't micromanage. Mm-hmm. What I do is I find people that I know I can trust. I build them up. I share with them how it's supposed to be. I share with them how they fit into the larger puzzle. Mm-hmm. And then I expect them to carry it forward.
Gotcha.
Because if I see the same thing that you see, then we got two people getting paid to see the same thing. One of us got to go.
Wow. That's deep.
You paying double duty for two people to see the same thing.
Wow.
So how can the business or the organization advance when we're stuck at the same spot? No, I need you to see. So what I tell our staff is, when you come in a meeting, you need to be sharing things with me that I don't know. You need to be the expert in your particular area. Wow. So we have a youth pastor and a young adult. I tell you, all have to be the subject matter experts. When you come into me, you should be telling me, how do you think in this generation? What are their mindsets? How should we be approaching? Because that's not my strength. How do young adults do it? That's not my strength. But I have people around me that can help me to see those areas, because that is their strength.
Nice.
So, again, when you're doing real estate, there might be parts of what you do, man, that you don't enjoy, right? Mm-hmm. You might like to find the property, but you might not want to do the rehab on the property, right? Or you might not, there's different elements of it. So how can you partner with somebody else that really likes the parts that you don't like? Mm-hmm. Now you got a good team.
That's funny you mentioned that, because you're in real estate, your contractor is like your right arm. I don't want to do any of that stuff. I mean, I have to have a general understanding of it, a lot of it, tile, flooring, sheetrocking, cabinets. I have to have a general overview, but I'm like, man, the more decisions I'm making, I tell my staff all the time, the more decisions I'm making here means I'm not out trying to get money. The more I'm dragged into doing these, I'm not out there on the field. The general can't be on the field all the time.
You cannot, and that's where businesses struggle, especially small businesses, because the leader has to be the face of the organization. Mm-hmm. So it's hard to be the face, and you're out interacting, and you're trying to drive new business and do the work at the same time.
Yeah,
I mean, it's difficult. So, but I say that to also say this is where it becomes challenging, because let's just be honest, sometimes good help is hard to find, man. And finding people that will run with your vision is hard to find. But it's so important that when you find somebody that really you can trust to be your cover.
Oh man.
It's like magic, isn't it? As best you can, man.
I feel like it's like magic. I mean, I don't know if it's anointed or whatever. I love it when I'm like, man, he can take. I know he can take care of that. I got to go over.
Exactly. So at the church, I know the audience that know Reverend David Person, who's our director of ministries. He is my cover.
Oh yeah, yesterday. That's right.
Yeah, and since he has been at the church, I mean, it's been a huge blessing, because he is administratively strong. He can do all the other stuff, but he allows me to be freed up to do the things that I'm supposed to do.
Give us the picture of that, Brother Swann, if you don't mind sharing. How does that look? Is that something, obviously we can apply that to our business lives as well. I mean, you're saying that frees you up a lot. Tell me, how does that look from a 40,000 foot view?
Yeah, so that leads me to answer that question. That leads me to point 4.
Okay.
All right. Point 4. Point 4 is you have to know your vision.
Know your vision.
Know your vision as the leader. And Chris, I need you to underline vision. Because I think a lot of people miss this point about leadership. Vision is the number one most important element that a leader is responsible for in an organization. Vision, not just the money aspect and the organizational structure. Vision, because everything that the organization does is funneled through the vision. Now, here's the most important point you need to understand about vision. Vision is singular. So in my case, vision comes from God, and my responsibility is to share the vision with the congregation. So we talk about this all the time, Chris. This is my bus driver analogy, right? So my role is to drive the bus. I get the vision. And if you know city transportation, they usually put the destination on the front of the bus to let you know where the bus is going. When you go in an airport and you go to the gate, don't they have the destination to let you know where this plane is going?
Yeah.
Right? So why? Because they don't want you getting on the wrong plane.
Gotcha.
Right? So what the airport is telling you, what the train station is telling you, what the bus station is telling you is, here's where we're going. You determine whether you get on and get off.
Wow.
Vision is the number one thing for leaders, because you have to communicate with the people that you're leading, and you have to answer this one question: where are we going? If the organization doesn't know where it is going, then how do you know you're successful? How do you know that you have arrived at doing anything noteworthy? And so now vision leads to the second point of this same point here, number 4, is that vision establishes the culture of your organization. Every single organization has culture. Culture is not what you do. Culture is how you do it. So Chris, in your case, you have a real estate company, but there are hundreds of thousands of real estate companies, right? So What's the difference between your real estate company and somebody else's? What's the difference between my church and a church down the street? It's the culture. And the culture is established by the vision. And vision is singular. So you asked me the question earlier, how did Reverend Person free me up? Because you have to understand, as the leader, this is the one area that nobody else in the organization can do. And that is to know and fully develop the vision of the organization. If you have more than one vision in your organization, you have division.
Oh, wow.
And that's where you get clicks and inefficiencies, because you have two different visions of where the organization is going. Vision has to be singular, and then it has to be shared. So if the head person lacks vision, then the organization is just going to go around in circles. And this is what frustrates people. Nobody wants to get on a bus. Nobody wants to get on a train, and nobody wants to get on an airplane and fly around in circles. Don't you want to get somewhere?
Yeah.
So you need people around you to be able to work to mask your weaknesses, so that then frees you up to be able to look at your organization a year from now, 2 years from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, because that is what we're responsible for. And this is why we get the big office, and this is why we get the big paycheck, because our responsibility is to cast vision.
It's weird, man. I might get a vision, right? And I'm like, bro, Kevin, I'm like, who can I call? I'm like, who do you call this shit? I mean, because like I got this vision, blah, blah, blah. You can't, you can't call the team. Who you calling?
Here's the funny part about that, right? So this is the reason why the leaders always stays up at night and the workers go to sleep. Because the leaders are the ones that's burdened with the vision. See, you understand as well as I do. You're the one that's responsible. You got employees. I got employees. They're employees at the church. I understand that they have families. That they're relying on the paycheck, right? So if my vision ain't right, I might have to go to one of them and say, we can't support your family. We have to go in a different direction. So that is why we stay up at night and everybody else sleeps good, because they don't have to worry about that stuff.
That's a rough obligation, bro.
But this is leadership, right? And so one of the things we did at the church, and I'll recommend for any organization, is that we did a 5-year strategic plan.
5-year strategic plan.
And the strategic plan can be any number of years that you decide it to be. But really what the plan does is it puts down in writing where you're going and how you plan to get there. So Chris, you married, right? So you tell your wife, say, look, babe, we want to go, we're going to drive to New York, right? So that's the destination. That's the vision. Vision is New York. But don't you still got to figure out how to get there?
Yeah.
You're going to go 13. You're going to take Bay Bridge Tunnel. You're going to go up 13 through New York. You're going to take 64 to 95. You're going to go through D.C. and Baltimore. So having a vision is good, but then you also got to have the plan to execute the vision. And that's where you need staff and other people to help you to achieve that. Because if the vision is what it's supposed to be, it's going to be bigger than one person to handle it. And that's why you need others around you to help you to execute it. So if your organization, man, is doing what it's supposed to, and real estate is booming, man, and things are good, at some point, in order to get to the next step, you're going to need other people to help you to achieve whatever that is, man. But vision is most important. So if you don't have a clear vision, then you can't have a clear culture in your organization. And if you don't have clear culture in your organization, then people are coming to work without a real sense of how they fit into the larger puzzle. So I'll tell you what we did to change the culture at Ivy Christian. You know this. We simplified everything in the church to 3 words. And that's now our culture: love, grow, and serve. Right? So you don't have to know the Bible back and forth. You don't have to know much of it. If you just remember those 3 words: love God, love others, grow, and serve, then to us, that is the vision. That is the culture that we want to establish. And now we're all moving in the right direction. Without culture, man, I mean, you have culture whether you are intentional about it or not.
That is the culture. Your culture is being unintentional if you don't.
You got that right. And this is what the leader is largely responsible for. John Maxwell, who is the author of a lot of books on leadership, he says success and failure of any organization rises and falls on the leadership. So I'm a sports guy, right? That's all I know. So in football, when the team isn't doing well, they usually, the first move that they normally make when the team isn't doing well, they replace the quarterback. Why they replace the quarterback? Because the quarterback is the leader of the team. So what they're saying is that if the team isn't going in the right direction, what we first of all need to do is shift the leadership by the quarterback. Then if it still don't work, we're going to replace the coach.
Gotcha.
What does the coach represent? Leadership again. Right? So that's why leadership is so important, man.
Yeah, I had to have you on this one because I'm always just cramming down strategy on my roundup, strategy. But this leadership thing, man, I just think it's just so big because I don't think we're very rarely taught this stuff. Brothers, well, I mean, I don't know. I don't know. Remember ever getting taught this stuff coming up?
No, you don't, man. And you say strategy, I would argue vision first, because what are your strategies working toward if they don't understand the bigger picture of it?
That's true.
You see?
Wow.
Or is the strategy just to get paid?
That's
You
one strategy. Yeah.
So for you, your strategy is bigger than just finances. You have an overall. So when you start, see, let me go back to scripture. Bible says, where there is no vision, the people perish, right? So you take vision even in the house. If as a parent, your job as the father is to be the visionary of the house. And our responsibility as the parent is to help shape the future of our children, even when they don't see it. It's not just to go to work and have a roof over their head and buy them whatever they want. It's to give them direction. That's what parents do. That's vision. So when your son is born, you already going to have in your mind some ideas of, is he going to go to college or not? Is he, all that stuff. How you going to discipline him and all that. Even with your girls, man, you already kind of see down the line, right? That's what vision is. And it's no different than with an organization.
Gotcha. I'm trying to figure out if I should stay here. I'm always just curious about the walk being. Did you want to go here regarding the walk in the word and in the world? Is there a difference where you look at things, Brother Swann? Did you want to cover your number 5 first and come back to that?
We can stay here if you like.
Well, I just wanted. Is there any difference when you're casting this stuff and when you actually? Because I mean, my small role in the church. I mean, people hit me all the time. Do this, do that, do that, and nobody's 100% happy with the way the sound is, and they're all constantly coming toward me.
But see, that's why number 2 on your list is so important. You got to know your why. Because
I'm just working.
You know what I'm saying? Because you're always going to have people in the industry that's going to be dissatisfied, man. Man, you could flip a house for somebody, and you could do all the rebuild, and you could bless a family with the house.
Just give them the house.
And they walk in and you give it to them, they still gonna be mad. They're still gonna point out something that they wish that they had. And he done all this work. And you mean to tell me I done blessed you with a brand new refab house and you're not appreciative?
Yeah, that's rough.
It happens, man. That's why you got to know your why, right? But to answer your question, is there a difference between leadership in the world and leadership in the church? And the answer is 100% yes. And there is now, let me preface that by saying there are certain leadership skills that can be transferable, but the goal of leadership is very different in the world as it is the church for one primary reason. And that is Christ modeled servant leadership. And this is the biggest difference. So leadership in the world is basically top down, right? So president, vice president, and everybody kind of works their way up. And in the world, it really is, in many cases, about the bottom line.
Regarding dollars.
Is the business profiting? Because let's be honest, you're in business to make money. So from the leadership of the world, is this business profitable? Is what's driving a lot of what's happening. In the church, it is not the profit that's most important. It is whether or not people are being built up. Is it the kingdom being advanced? Is it things are going forward in that direction? So while money is important in the church, don't get me wrong, and vision is important, don't get me wrong, but the approach to it is very different. Jesus modeled servant leadership by washing the disciples' feet.
I saw that, yeah.
And then he said, go and do likewise. He then also said that the greatest among you in a room shall be the one who serves. So there is, from that perspective, in the church where we lift others up and build others up, whereas in the world, the bottom line is the most important thing.
You're talking about in larger businesses, because I consider myself just a servant too for the financial world, Brother Swann. My boy was like, he answers the phone, how can I serve you? I mean, even when the phone rings, it's like it seems like the more people I serve, as we approach 4 million, I mean, we're just servants, though. I mean, I think that's one of the successes for me.
Because that's your culture. But what you ought to even realize now, you have incorporated a Christ-like culture into your organization. Not every organization does that.
I got you. I'm good with that. I can live with that.
Absolutely, man. Because servant leadership is putting others above yourself. Worldly leadership is I'm putting the business ahead of everything else. And by the way, businesses really don't have morals per se.
What do you mean?
Do you really think Walmart is concerned about Christmas?
They're concerned about the bottom line, I would think. I mean,
exactly.
moreover.
Because most businesses understand that starting at Black Friday, that the success of their business going into 2020 will largely be determined by the last 6 weeks of the year.
Mm-hmm.
So whether it's Christmas, whether it's Hanukkah, whether it's whatever, I'm going to use that to drive business. Do you really think Nike is really concerned about Kaepernick?
I don't know. I have no idea.
But they signed Kaepernick to a new deal and they even are making a new shoe after him.
Wow.
I didn't know that. Know that his message can potentially be profitable.
I see.
And by the way, they just renewed Vic's contract too.
Oh, is that a good thing? I mean, I don't know too much about sports.
My question to you is, from a Nike perspective, do you think that they're looking at the morality of whether or not of what he did with the dogs, or do you think Nike's looking at the profitability of these two individuals who are polarizing? Some love them and some don't, but for the ones who love them, they're going to support whatever merchandise that is brought out there.
I see.
Does that really have anything to do with morality? I'm just raising that question. And in most cases, businesses don't get into the moral standing.
Mm-hmm.
They're there to survive. And if it happens that they pick up a cause that you agree with, then great.
Let's stay here for a minute, bro Swann. I know you said a few weeks ago, this is I don't know the word you used, but it was kind of concerning regarding the holiday time of year where Black Friday. I remember you mentioned it like after Black Friday, this is the holiday season. What did you you want to expound on that? And then we'll get to number 5.
Yeah.
But I would like to share that though.
So from the Christian perspective, this time of year is 2 different events that's going on at the same time. And sometimes they're closely related and then sometimes they're not. And that is the holiday season versus the birth of Christ, right? So the holiday season, we know, are filled with a lot of traditions. It's eggnog, it's mistletoe, it's Christmas trees, it's holiday parties, it's Yuletide cheer, all of the things, Santa Claus coming down a chimney, all of that is holiday season traditions. And of course, the gift exchanges that take place. But perhaps none of those things are scripturally based. Mm-hmm. So for the Christian, we have to be able to navigate in 2 different spaces and not let the holiday season consume us more than the appreciation of the birth of Christ, which is a completely different scenario.
Gotcha. That's cool. I just wanted to hear. I mean, I remember you mentioning. Well, I know you did a sermon on it, but I just wanted to for my viewers to kind of hear that point of view.
Absolutely, man. Because birth of Christ, man, there wasn't any sales. It wasn't Black Friday, man. It wasn't.
They didn't even have a place to go.
There was no Santa Claus. There was no Christmas tree. There was no eggnog. No mistletoe. None of that stuff.
You're crazy, man.
It's a completely different time, man.
A roundup. If you're just joining us, I got Kevin Swann here. We're going to finish wrapping up and get your questions over here, answer, put them in the chat box, and we'll get Brother Kevin to answer all that stuff. Okay, number 5. Last tip you got for us for leadership going into 2020.
All right. So we actually touched on this one already, but I'll expand on it again. So number 5 is you have to know who you're leading. Know who you're leading. So one thing that this speaks to about a leader is being relational. Okay. So again, if we're establishing culture, John Maxwell, again, a guru in leadership, says people don't want to know how much you know until they first know how much you care.
Mm-hmm. That's big.
Right? So in terms of the people that you're leading, before you even discuss their job responsibilities, do you know their family background? If they have a spouse, do you know the name of their spouse? If they have children, do you know their names? Do you know anything about them beyond just the business aspect of their life?
Mm-hmm.
And what I have discovered is that when you engage and show that you have care and concern for an employee's well-being, not just what can they do to contribute to the bottom line, then staff morale will increase, the culture of the organization will be better, and you will find that they'll work harder for the organization. Now, I know this to be particularly true at our church because for most people, working at a church is not a high-paying job at all. So what I try to do, again, going back to this culture, is really try to create a working environment that makes them feel good about getting up and going to work to a place where money might not be the best that we can offer them. And clearly they could go other places in a real working world and make a whole lot more money. But if you were to come into our church during the week, you're going to hear a lot of laughter. You're going to see a lot of hugs, because we have created an environment that is very relational for the staff. And I've made it a point to really want to hone in on staff needs, because I need them to be in a good space so that then we can serve our congregation and community better. So that really starts with the leader. And if the leader is only interested in what they're doing and how they're performing job-wise, then you're not going to get the best out of that employee.
Gotcha.
So that last piece is important. Who's around you? And showing appreciation for them will go a long way.
That's weird, as you mentioned that as I'm putting in the gift cards to all of my tenants, literally today, I'm like just thanking them for being allowed. Matter of fact, my note is, thank you for allowing us to be a part of your family. I'm like, you could live anywhere in the world. You could live any house in Hampton Roads. Thanks for living with us,
And those little things go a long way, man. And like, for example, we do the same thing. I do the same thing when we have new people to join the church. The first thing I tell them is, for you to join our church, for you to get to our church, you had to have passed at least 10 other churches driving to ours, no matter where you live. So for you to come here and to say you want this to be your home, I want to thank you for that. And we want to establish that relational aspect with people, because again, people need to know, especially in this time where there are random shootings and just craziness that's all over the news, that there are people who just care about you. And if the leader creates that kind of environment, man, it goes a long way. So we can't say love, grow, serve is our culture, and I don't embody love to people, because we have to model what we desire. So if we desire a staff that really cares for the people, then it starts with us. You can't point fingers and ask people to do what you're not doing.
Can't point. Wow. Where does that come? And I when I converse with my inner circle members, I'm like, I have to be what I want to see in my community. Where on earth does that come from, Kevin? I mean, I didn't think that before. I remember when we got our publishing deal years ago, made a bunch of money, but I used it. I wasn't a good leader at that time. Went broke. How do we develop that? I need to be what I want to see as opposed to looking for it in the community. It took me 40 years.
Because again, everybody in the organization follows the leader. So if you say we want to be caring, but the leader isn't personally caring,
Gotcha.
then the people in the organization aren't going to go out their way to be caring if they know the leader isn't.
Gotcha.
So if you notice, that's why in church, man, during fellowship time, I make a habit to hug as many people as I can all over the room, because I don't want people to think I'm only hugging a certain group of people. You have to be intentional about how you treat everybody. I make it a point to speak to everybody first, even if they don't speak back, because again, I need to model what it is that we desire. And the moment I stop will be the moment the congregation stops, man.
That's big, man. That's big, because it took me years to say, you know what, I'm like, man, forget it. I'm just going to be. This is what I'm going to be, as opposed to, trying to round up family. I'm hanging out with Kevin Swann as we get this thing wrapped up. Get your questions in there for him. I'm sure he's more than happy to answer anything you have about leadership, whether it's in the world or in the word. It's up. He's been so gracious to give us an hour of his time today. Anything else you want to leave real quick before we get to Q&A? I got a couple questions here, Brother Swann.
I'm ready to go to Q&A. This has been a blast, man. I've enjoyed this. I appreciate you having me on.
Vegas. Who is this? Christopher talking about Vegas. I don't have too much about Las Vegas, my friend. I'm usually buying houses in the Hampton Roads area. Sorry about that, Chris. Williams, Christian. I'm a good. Oh, thank you. Yes, I appreciate that. Thanks for the season greetings. William says, thanks you, Pastor Swann, for your time and wisdom.
My pleasure.
Arlene, a couple books right there. How to understand others. Understanding that. Yeah, I want to ask you about some books too. Let's see. Oh, I thought we had some QA. Oh, yeah, here we go. Williams wants to know, mind, sound, power. The thought mixed with the spoken word brings the manifestation. Do you agree with that, Brother Swann?
That the thought of what? Mind, sound, and power together?
Yeah.
Is that what he's saying?
Yes. The thought mixed with the spoken word.
I think the spoken word isn't just mind. I think spoken word also comes from the desires of our heart. And, going back to scripture, Jesus said, out of the abundance of the heart does the mouth speak. So if we speak jealousy, it's usually because there's jealousy in our heart. If we speak anger, it's because there's anger in our heart. And so that's why the heart first, then the mind, in my opinion, are the two areas that we really have to be careful to control.
What's coming in?
Yeah. Because, again, the heart is where, scripturally speaking, where a lot of what we think and feel, where it originates from.
Pro equity. This is a real estate one. As the leader of a real estate company, how do we keep acquisitionists personally motivated? What we do with pro equity cash buyers, that's a good question. This is a real estate side, Kevin. We give them a piece of the deal. So we got one getting ready to close now. I'm like, listen, you get a percentage of the deal, as opposed to giving them a flat fee, because you're going to be making, I don't know what you're making, but we actually bring them in on the deal. Came out here.
Let me speak to that, man, if I can.
Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
We talked off air too about how do leaders stay motivated in this work, man, because you can be in it for a long time, and for most people, you can find yourself in a grind, and you get burnt out, and you can just. So one thing I will say is the need to be intentional about getting away from it. Because so much of what we can do as leaders can actually consume you, and you can wake up one day and you can find yourself working 7 days a week, and even when you come home from work, your mind is not away. Your mind is still thinking on things at work, and you sitting there having dinner, trying to talk. Your family trying to talk to you, but your mind's still stuck on the deal that didn't go. Yeah. I mean, you really have to be intentional about separating what you do, because what you do is not who you are. And so many times we try to blend the two. Well, I'm a successful real estate person.
Yeah.
That's what you do. But who is Chris? That's a completely different question, right? Mm-hmm. And so resting and getting away and having outlets, finding ways to relieve stress, all those things are important to long-term survival in a leadership position.
Yeah, I just made it a point. I'm going to do a massage. I just started doing this. I'm like, I'm doing it, man.
Man, they change your life, bro.
Every month.
God, just change your life, man.
I agree. Team don't care about the team. Pastor Swann, what homework do you recommend to determine who you are and you're learning your weaknesses? That's a good question. Sister Vega.
So thank you, Sister Vega, for the question. One of the best ways to figure out who you are is to really, again, start with you sitting down and just writing out, what do I like to do? What am I passionate about? If money wasn't an issue,
yes,
what would I be doing?
Money was an issue.
Yeah.
Take money out. That's a big question.
What would I be doing with my life? And then also another big thing is ask people around you who you trust. Ask them some of the same questions and see if their answers line up with yours. Because sometimes other people can see things in you long before you do.
That's right.
Or you're willing to admit it. And just having some people you trust and ask, hey, what do you think I'm good at? What do you think I'm not good at? Mm-hmm. All that can be very helpful.
I wanted to ask, stay at that framework for a minute, sister. When he says, what are you good at? I know a lot of people are saying, do it and the money will come. You still got, let's just be real. You got bills to pay. You got a lifestyle to live. So I don't think it's necessarily that you have to go all in on it. You don't have to just say, forget it. I'm going to go do this and nothing else. You can always, my thing is, as long as you're just consistent with it, doing X a week, whatever it is you want to do. It doesn't have to be long, maybe an hour a week. I don't know what Swann would think about that.
Yeah, I mean, you don't have to jump right in, but I will say this. I was an academic advisor, man, before I went into ministry full time. So I used to sit down with college students right before they declared their major.
I bet you got some stories, bro.
Yeah, man. And, a lot of them were like, yeah, I want to be this electrical engineer, for example. I say, okay. So then we look up your math scores and you had terrible scores.
I mean, pre-algebra, yeah.
Right. And so what I used to tell students is this, they will inevitably in life, there may come a fork in the road between, in terms of professional career, between what I want to do to make a good living versus what I want to do that will make me happy. And in a perfect world, you would like to earn a lot of money at doing things that make you happy. But that's not always the case. But what I have also found is that there are a lot of people who get up and go to work every day who make lots of money who are miserable.
Oh, Lord, yes.
But then you ask yourself, is it worth it? And only you can answer that question. I happen to be extremely fortunate that I get up every day and I don't consider what I do work. I just, because I love what I do. And, the health benefits of being able to get up and go and do. Now, what I do is very demanding. What I do is a lot of work, but I enjoy it. So it'll be different, I think, if I didn't enjoy it. I don't know if I would be able to stay in it. Mm-hmm. So, again, I think when people look at money versus happiness, I think everybody professionally at one point will have to make that decision, man.
Well, sister, let's move on. But what I did was you got to get you some Jim Rohn in your life. Jim Rohn is like one of the self-help. Years ago, what I did, he advised us, take a piece of paper, sister, draw a line down the middle. On the left side, write all the stuff you're good at.
Yep.
And on the right side, write all the stuff you ain't good at, and then you can pick which one of those you'd like to do. That's what I did.
But the key is you got to be honest about that stuff, man, right? Because, sometimes we try to put things in places that really ain't true, where you say you're good at it, but you're really not good at it. You would like to be good at it, but you got to be truthful in those scenarios.
No, a lot of people don't want to be in front of the camera. Well, for those people, I'm like, you could just do a podcast. You don't have to be in front of the camera all the time. And you don't have to create content. Like right now, Kevin Swann is the content, So if you're rough and creating content, you can have a guest to help you with content.
Absolutely.
Hey, Chris, thank you for being available. You're welcome, my friend. You want to get some coaching? Oh, just email me. Just Chris Buys Houses if you want to get in touch with that. KJ, hey KJ, how do you recommend applying these leadership concepts while you are still working alone? We got a solopreneur here, working alone toward your goals.
Well, I mean, that's a great question, KJ, but hopefully if your business is prospering, then you won't be working alone for long, right? Or forever. So I go back to that culture piece. That's the most important thing. And the vision piece, if you didn't get anything else from this, because as soon as you add somebody to your organization, the dynamics of that organization changes.
Wow. Yeah. Big time.
And that's true in a family. Think about it. You go from, let's say 2 people are married, husband and wife are married. You only have one-way communication, right? Then a child is brought into that. Now you got 3, then another child, then you got another. So, just adding one person shifts a structure dramatically. And if you know ahead of time what your vision is, if you know ahead of time what kind of culture you want to have, that allows for the communication, no matter how many people you add, to be much more effective.
KJ, if you're working by yourself, I would definitely recommend you I'm reading a book now called Flat. The World is Flat. I know I did a post the other day. People thought I was crazy. The World is Flat. You shaking your head. You know that book, Swann?
I've heard of it. I haven't read it.
Anyway, the man talk about the world is flat. First of all, everything's on a flat screen. It's not literally, it's figuratively, so you can contact people linearly now. Somebody like we have employee that are in, I don't want to say employee. We have 1099 people that are in the Philippines, someone that are in India. So it's flat now. The communication, the business has been flattened. KJ, I would say to try to at least look for some internet workers first, because they are going to be a little cheaper for you to afford. Rich, hey, what's up, Rich? I'm very appreciative of this show. I definitely need to hear this one. Thanks, Pastor Swann, for your time, and thank you for doing this one, Chris.
Rich, appreciate you, man.
Yeah, appreciate you. That's it. Final thoughts, Brother Swann, for 2000. Wow, I can't believe it's 2020. I want to know what. How about you? Tell me some of your things that you're working on for 2020, my friend. I know you got to have some nuggets in there.
Yeah, it's funny, man. I hate to say this. I don't do a lot of resolutions, man.
Me neither, man. I just do it right now.
Yeah, right. Because listen,
I don't got time.
I don't know if I'm gonna make it to 2020. Right? So I need to work on whatever I say I'm gonna do January 1. I'm gonna do it now.
Right now.
And I just, every day, man, just try to get better at something.
Gotcha.
That's really what it is. And I think for a lot of people, too, you said this earlier, it's not always the major steps that you just take little steps every day. Like nobody, if you own a yard, right, and I cut grass, I never see grass grow. Like you cut it and then you walk past it and then you realize one day, man, I need to cut it, right? But nobody actually sits there and watches it grow, right? And the same is true in life. If you just make incremental steps every day, then one day you'll wake up and realize, wow, I've made a lot of progress. And that's kind of how I try to live, man.
It's amazing how that works. But I think in order for that to work, you got to be on your grind, though. This is just from my perspective. Like I was grinding, then I look up, we got 50,000 subscribers. It's almost like I got real estate holdings, but I didn't. It's weird, the journey. When I look back, Brother Swann, I just wish I would have appreciated the journey a little bit more. Everybody wants now. I want to get 10 houses. I want to have rental property. I want to be flipping houses. I think the journey. What about you?
The journey is definitely most important because we can be so consumed with the destination that we miss all these little nuggets along the way, man. All these little life lessons, these business lessons, because we're so focused on the end result, but rarely is the end result as important as what you learn along the way.
Who you become too, right?
Yeah, man. Yeah, I mean, and that's especially true in my world, being a pastor, because the end result is, everlasting life. But that's not really what's most important. Now is the journey to becoming more of who God wants you to be.
That's cool. I like that one.
Yeah, man.
That's a good analogy there. Wow. Well, you got to appreciate it even more. So, wow, you got to apply that right now.
right now, man.
Roundup family, thank you for bearing with me. I know this is a little different than my usual interviews, but I know this brother here. I know I've seen what he's doing in the community. You want to share with us very briefly, well, real quickly about Kevin Swann? I know you said you had a nonprofit.
Yeah, we have a nonprofit, Kevin Swann Enterprises, and we do community work. We do some financial literacy stuff, man. So maybe we can connect on some point, Chris. We take kids in the summertime, man, and we teach them stocks, bonds, mutual funds, investing, budgeting, just the things, man, that for so many of us we never got. And so, when you get older, man, you tend to treat finances by trial and error, and it's more error than trial, man, right? So, what I'm saying. So, to your point earlier, you got money and then you spent it, right? Whereas if we
broke,
right, and you say to yourself, man, if we knew then what we know now,
OMG,
we could perhaps be in a much different space. And so we try to do that. So we do financial literacy. We do stuff for the kids and sports. So we use basketball and we use character development in the league that we create, man. We do stuff for back to school and Christmas time. A lot of outreach stuff, man, helping kids.
If somebody wants to get in touch with you, Brother Swann, are you on social media and all that stuff, or you?
Yes. So Facebook is Kevin Swann, Twitter and Instagram, Kevin G Swann, and that's Swann, SWANN, 2 N's.
Nice. Roundup family, thank you so much for hanging out with me. Take a second to subscribe to my channel. Like this content if we have poured into you, as you know, we try to do here at the Real Estate Roundup. And share with anybody that is looking to be a leader or you think they would be a good leader. Because sometimes, for me, I didn't even know I was going to be this today. I'm just years ago. I'm just focusing on trying to get mine, man. I got to get mine. I ain't worried about nobody else. Now we are just trying to help the community. Brother Swann, thank you so much for joining me, my friend.
Hey, man, it's been my pleasure. And to everybody that's tuned in, I hope something was deposited today that can help you out in your leadership journey.
Yeah. Okay, Roundup. I'll see you soon. Peace.